I have this weird thing in fiction to where I'll see something and I'll immediately think of real-world context for it. For example, the movie that came out last year in 2018, Avengers Infinity War. Spoilers if you somehow have not seen this year-old movie so far. I see all these major characters die at the very end. I see Black Panther die. I see Spider-Man die. And I don't feel too much because I know those characters aren't really dead because, well, sequels have been announced and they're far too popular and they're going to make Marvel far too much money for them to actually die. So I know that right from the get-go. And that kind of happens for me with video games as well. I see the authorization system and I know, okay, this exists because they need some way for Samus to not be able to use all her power-ups so we can unlock it throughout the course of the game because that's a major core part of the Metroid series. I get that. That does not change the fact that the authorization system is stupid. And I mean probably one of the stupidest things in this game. And granted, all the other times that Metroid has tried to explain away Samus's power-ups, those have been pretty freaking stupid as well. For example, in Metroid Prime, she gets shocked by single bolts of stray electricity and loses all her powers, despite being used as like an electrical conduit to kill Dragon in Super Metroid. In Metroid 2, she gets tentacle removed as far as her upgrades are concerned by weird ing creatures. She somehow gets overpowered by them, and then all of her upgrades get stolen. That's also really stupid. Then Prime 3 rolls around, and they decide, you know what, let's not make her lose all the power-ups to begin with because, well, trying to explain them all away is stupid, and most of the best Metroid games to begin with don't explain it at all because Super Metroid didn't explain it, and the game was probably better for it, to be honest. In fact, Super Metroid is probably the only game in the series that had a good one, with the suit being able to be surgically removed due to the X and stuff like that, so there shouldn't be an excuse to begin with, but they tried to create one for Other M, and it's a really stupid thing. But we'll get some more on that in a second as we have another new aspect to Other M right here as we find a men and women's bathroom? Okay, how about the men's room? Of course, it's sealed off, so I guess it's the ladies' room for Samus. And ew, disgusting purple bugs. Not a very sanitary restroom, if I do say so myself. But yeah, there are going to be segments in Other M where we have this weird Resident Evil-like view right here, and the music kind of changes and it gets really creepy. And I think the purpose of these scenes is to increase the tension and try to create a more foreboding atmosphere, and I kind of like it for the most part. Some segments overstay their welcome to where the slow walking does get annoying, but sequences like this, I don't really mind them, even if it is in a ladies' bathroom for the first one, which is kind of weird. But yeah, the authorization mechanic for unlocking power-ups. I get why it's there because they need it to begin with, but they could have done a better job explaining it. I think the way to explain it was kind of lost to begin with. I don't think it would have worked no matter what. And they do try to hand-wave and give explanations for why Samus would obey Adam's orders because she respects them, and this is like a Galactic Federation operation and things like that, but they're still, and okay, look, I could squint my eyes and maybe buy that she respects Adam's authority and she doesn't want to cause the collateral damage, as we did see a reason that they alluded to at the beginning there, that they didn't want to use too many explosives because it could damage the station. I could squint my eyes and maybe believe that for a vast majority, not even a vast majority, for a lot of Samus's power-ups, as I'm going to go ahead and tag this energy tank right here, another very useful feature for Other M right there, as that will be added to our map immediately. I could do that for some of Samus's upgrades, expansions, whatever you want to call them. Problem is, some of them, it just doesn't work, and we'll see that later, and I'm going to bring it up. Some reasons why Samus doesn't activate her equipment, namely the shielding on her suit, doesn't make sense, and it's another reason why the authorization mechanic is just so stupid, and I do kind of bemoan it for being so stupid, because I feel like it didn't have to be that way. You could have just, at this point, just been like, straight bolts of electricity in an elevator, she loses the power-ups and stuff like that. I mean, it's been done before, right? It's kind of an equally stupid explanation, but all of this goes to the underlying issue that I think it should just be a given that she's not going to have any of the power-ups, and we need to just accept it like we did in Super Metroid. That way we don't need some stupid explanation, and we don't need a reason, as I see something shiny back there that we can't get to, and we don't have to create a reason that she doesn't have them, because when we have to create reasons that Samus doesn't have her power-ups, we get really stupid results almost all the time. But that's kind of a rant. More on that later as we get to the examples that I'm talking about as to in what situations the authorization mechanic doesn't make sense. But we do have a nav booth right here, and I'll get into more of what the nav booths do later on, as we're going to have this very cinematic run and more purple bugs. Yuck.
He's dead. Someone or something attacked him. Whoa!
Get away from me!
It was obvious that there was some pervasive danger throughout the facility. I didn't know what had brought Adam here, but I did know that cooperation was imperative if we were to restore safety. Adam, listen to me. Clearly, this facility is in complete disorder. It might be too dangerous for your men to go alone. That's why I've...
Look at that!
They're coming out of the wall!
Right, stay calm. What is it? Look out! Everyone back!
Alright, we have our first proper boss of the game right here, and it's going to be this weird purple bug tentacle eye monster right here. Yuck. Well, I can only try to guess where its weakness is. Is it the giant eyeball in the middle? Maybe. But I can't really seem to hit it from right here, so let's wait for it to thrash around a bit more. It usually thrashes around in groups of 3. And let's see if I have a bit more luck in first person mode right here. Let's go ahead and lock onto that eye. And see if I can hit me with a charge shot. That'll be effective, right?
Good! Nothing's working! Listen up! Freeze guns authorized! Sam, I'm authorizing missile use!
Alright, with that we're going to get our normal missiles back, so I don't really understand what was the point of taking them away right there, but they have freeze guns now, we have missiles, so you can probably figure out what we're supposed to do to this thing right here. Let's go ahead and get our missiles out and smack it in the eye right there. When we do that...
Concentrate fire in a single location and freeze that thing! And Samus, you attack the frozen spot!
Alright, so they'll shoot up the tentacle, and then we can blast it with the missile. Nice. And then it's just kind of rinse and repeat for the second tentacle right here. Just gonna have to get around until I get a good shot with the missile. Gonna wait for it to thrash around a little bit more because energy is at a bit of a premium right now. We only have one tank after all. Let's go ahead and get around. Oh. Yeah, maybe save the climbing for me, buddy. I tend to know what I'm doing more than you guys at the very least. So we'll go ahead and freeze that one. And that's tentacle number 2. And now we just have the body part right here. Alright, nice. Let's go ahead and try to get another missile up in there while we got a good shot. Yes, we do. And now we freeze the main body. Alright, let's get him. And that's going to reveal a disgusting eye, because Metroid loves big, disgusting eyes that we'll take out with our power beam. Yeah. Nice monster design, though. Reminds me of something that you'd see in Zero Mission or Fusion, not so much the Prime series, though. Kind of a reoccurring theme, honestly.
Samus, looks like I'm gonna need to ask for your cooperation on this mission, but I'm also gonna have to ask that you follow my commands. You don't move unless I say so, and you don't fire until I say so. Any objections, lady?
The thumbs up sign had been used by the Galactic Federation for ages. Me? I was known for giving the thumbs down during briefing. I had my reasons, though. Commander Adam Malkovich was normally cool and not one to joke around. But he would end all of his mission briefings by saying, "Any objections, lady?" He was joking, but others weren't. At the time, I felt surrounded by people who treated me like a child, or used kid gloves because I was a woman. And yet with Adam, I was grateful for the nod. My past has left me with an uneasy soul, and as a result, it touched me on some level that Adam would acknowledge that past by calling me something delicate, like lady. and I knew more than anyone that every word from Adam was deliberate. My thumbs down was a twofold response. A sign of derision at being called a lady, and a signal of my complete understanding of the mission orders. The other soldiers were always willing to support me with easy smiles despite the fact that I clearly had so much yet to learn. Among them was Anthony. In the face of his well-meaning behavior and that of the other soldiers, my response was to become increasingly bitter. I was a child, always with something to prove, a chip on my shoulder. And I was angry. I felt that if I let my guard down, I would easily be broken. And beyond that, I was scared. But even in the naivete of my youth, I could see in Adam's joking manner how close he felt to me. Adam knows my past, and he knows me better than anyone else. Confession time. Because I was so young when I lost both of my parents, there's no question I saw Adam as a father figure. When I rebelled against him, I knew I could get away with it. And his paternal compassion in the face of my rebellion reinforced the special bond I felt with him. I understood well that chances were slim that I would ever find anyone that understood me like Adam. And yet, when the time came, I still left his side. I was so young and naive.
Exactly what transpired here on the bottle ship is still uncertain. Here's what we do know. The equipment we thought had been destroyed is operational again. And we've seen casualties attributed to an unidentified and lethal creature. The situation is critical. We need to gather all the information we can, but priority one is to find any survivors and bring them to safety. Consider this site extremely dangerous. Be careful as you make your sweeps. And there's one problem. The wireless interference in this facility is all-pervasive. Your comm systems are useless. As a result, communication channels will be limited to the facility's navigation booths. Well then, Lyle, investigate Sector 1 and show a little restraint with the explosives.
Gotcha.
Maurice, you cover Sector 2. Repair any equipment you come across.
Affirmative.
Anthony, you're Sector 3. I'll leave it to you to decide whether plasma guns are called for.
All right.
James, check out the control bridge. Our communication issues might be the result of electrical interference.
Yes, sir.
And KG, run a complete sweep of the residential quarters and investigate any trace of survivors.
Got it.
Each of you is authorized to use a freeze gun. Do not forget to check in regularly via navigation booths. And Samus, you go to the system management room. Do everything you can to get the electrical system back up and running. Looks like your comm system is still functional. Remember, everything you see will also appear on this screen. Regarding auxiliary weapons, the use of bombs has been authorized. As far as your other weapons go, we will continue to investigate and authorize use as we can. However, we currently have no plans to authorize the use of power bombs. As you know, they have the ability to spread a high-temperature heat wave over a large area, impacting living things, which is a nice way of saying they can vaporize humans instantly. You should be well aware of how dangerous power bombs are, and how their devastation can't be obstructed with common materials. Once the mission in the system management room is complete, I need you to report back. I'll give you your next orders then. I want you all to be especially careful as you execute your missions. That's the end of the briefing.
It was the first joint mission I'd been a part of since becoming a freelance bounty hunter. And of course, It was the first time since my Federation days that I was following the orders of a commanding officer. Having received mission orders from Adam, I felt confused and strangely exhilarated at the unexpected turn of events. I responded.
Understood, Adam. No objections, of course.
Okay, so a lot to unpack from those cutscenes right there. It's kind of tempting for me right now to go into the aspect of this game concerning Adam and Samus's relationship, which might be the single most controversial aspect of this game, honestly, but I'm going to resist that temptation for right now and go back to the authorization system as we have some more context for that as well. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and pick up what we will see later now that we have the Morph Ball Bombs. I'll try not to butcher that name in this playthrough. Our first missile tank right there, and it gives us, wow, just one missile, huh? Yeah, the game is kind of stingy with not only energy tanks, as I'm just going to stand up, wow. Not only energy tanks, but missiles as well. We only get one per expansion right here, which leads to a lot more missile expansions to get with begin with right there, but yeah. So we can see right here that it seems to be one of the main reasons for Adam needing to authorize Samus's use of weapons is because they're worried about the collateral damage. And he doesn't just do this for Samus either. He actually tells Anthony that, yeah, go ahead and scout forward and see if we're going to have to use plasma guns. Of course, alluding to the plasma beam, which is Samus's most powerful weapon, and how Adam didn't authorize all of his Marines to use their, I guess, most devastating weapons right off the bat, because this thing of collateral damage seems to be a real concern right here. And I think the cutscene, as again, I don't want to get too into it right now, the relationship between Samus and Adam, I think the cutscene was also to add, given more context to why Samus would obey his orders to begin with. And again, we'll get to that later. But with all these things in mind, that number one, I turn off my brain a little bit because I know that, yes, the game needs some type of system like this to justify why Samus can't use all of her weapons at the beginning. That, okay, I can kind of buy that she would listen to Adam because she respects him as a CO, given the context of both the manga and Infusion. And that three, that she doesn't want to use, and that Adam doesn't want her to use all her most devastating weapons right off the bat because of collateral damage. Okay, maybe with all that together, this authorization upgrade system makes a bit more sense, but again, there are certain lacks of authorization of certain suit shielding items that don't make sense even with all this accounted for and all this context given. So, at the end of the day, I can see how maybe this wouldn't be a big deal, but it really is for some of this right here. But we need to turn on the electricity, so let's try to do that right quick. And of course, we have big, disgusting, flying insect monster hives right here that we're gonna have to take out with missiles, or at least the nest back here. So let me try to do that right quick, as if we have two, it's just gonna be more and more complicated. And once you got one down, the second one is not too big of a deal because they're both not spawning all the time. And again, this is something else from the Prime series. I don't think we saw... Well, actually, we did. Yeah, we saw it in Zero Mission, didn't we? But yeah, it's another kind of common Metroid trope that you have the nests that continue to spawn monsters and gotta kill off the nests and things like that. Yeah, pretty standard for the Metroid series. I thought that Prime 1 had added it first, but no, those things were definitely in Zero Mission. How could I possibly forget those? Yeah. And it was a bit more difficult to take down those nests as well. Alright, well, now that we have the power turned on, at least back in this main sector, time to head back to the control room as... Yeah, Samus, you should know by now to not touch the frickin' bridges or not trust them to begin with. So, if we jump on an enemy, we can do it. Overblast right here. Another addition to Samus's acrobatic repertoire right here. Although I find the Overblast to be kind of unreliable sometimes. They say just jump on top of an enemy, but I don't think that's really the case. I think you need to aim for a specific sweet spot that the enemy has, like the bulging, buggy eyes on those walkers right there. But we're gonna backtrack here right quick and get the missile. So whenever you defeat all the enemies in a room, you'll get the power-up location, which is very similar to how the other 2D games handle it. Although, I don't think you had to beat all the enemies in the 2D games. You just kind of got the little dot on the map whenever you entered the room to begin with. So, I guess kind of a extension of that type of system right there. And one that I do appreciate coming off the Prime series, as I did struggle with 100% completion from time to time with those guys. So good on Other End for that addition right there. Don't really mind it, think it's pretty great. Although, I will say that the having to go out of your way for expansions in this game, not so great from time to time, but looks like we're gonna have our first elevator in Other M. And it's not really what I expected, huh? Usually the elevators in Metroid are a bit more involved than that, but I guess we can get some more of that later, as we're going to have yet another nav room before we get back to the control room right there. Yeah, these things are pretty handy, man. I actually kind of like them.
Sequence complete. Process successful.